'90s today. Well, joining me in studio today is Andy. Oops, where's your- there it is. Andy Alvarado, and good morning, sir. You're the new, well, not the new. You've kind of been here about a year. That's the Sawyer County Administrator. How's it been going?
Well, it's over a year, but a good year.
Yeah, and you've adjusted to life in this. Now, where did you come from?
Came all the way from West Town.
Oh, all the way. Yes, that's just next door. Um, so, how's it been going the past year for being new on the job?
Really well. It's great staff to come to work with. Work's been really good. So it's been actually really easy to transition.
Yeah, and you've been doing some expansion at the county courthouse areas, and that's been going well.
Yeah, within a few weeks when I started last year, we broke ground. Courthouse expansion of there. There was courtroom offices and new courtroom. We were in a couple weeks.
And is there any other changes then to the front facade on Main Street of the building?
There's a little bit of change just because the buildings are protected now that it's jail and the courthouse extended past Sixth Street. So that appearance has changed. And what you probably will see actually is the facade on the street side of the building.
Yeah,
That's much improved.
Yeah.
It actually is primary entrances to primary entrances.
yeah. I was just there. Well, on Friday I was there, and I was very impressed with that new look and the big lobby area there, waiting room area, and the new conference center for the board. So they're going to use the boardroom, all kinds of waiting rooms, and that they want the computer rooms, and that's good. Well, we're here to talk about broadband in Wisconsin, specifically in Wisconsin, Sawyer County, and talk a little bit about this initiative with this self-report of the Wiser survey.
Yeah, this is where we're at these days with internet broadband development. Um, Probably over the years, people have seen a lot of surveys come out from different entities and agencies, including the PSC. They've put out another one called the Wiser. It's a Wisconsin Internet Self-Reporting Survey. It's open currently. It's been out for probably a month. Deadline is obviously the sooner the better. Google PSC Wiser survey, find it. But it just walks you through self-reporting on your internet service, cost for it, how you use it, where you're located, and obviously service. And they're using this information to another round of funding coming out towards the end of the year. It's called the BEAD funding, asking the federal government to the state and using this for yourselves to
Right. And there's been a few internet service providers already applying for some of the money that has come from the federal government through the state of Wisconsin to help expand broadband to some of our rural areas that have been either underserved or not served at all. Can you talk a little bit about what those expansions are happening?
Sure. Yeah, actually, local companies did really well in the last 2 rounds of BEAD funding. So I think that's smooth here. Also, hopefully, we see just over $23 million of grant funding in the last 2 years. That's just a portion of all the projects here. Just $40 million. So that's been happening. As I can say, if different companies that have come in. So some of those projects that are like big Sac Edgewater area, Lakes, Lake, Winter, Drake, Ferguson, have different cities and investments.
No.
It was just the most recent round back when I was meeting. These don't happen now until probably next year.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
providers get access to so,
Yeah. And a lot of this funding came about, from my understanding, is that between towns, there's a lot of forest, and there's not a lot of incentive for internet service providers or cable TV to build between these communities because forests don't help pay the bills. And so the federal government stepped in and said, hey, we need to connect these small communities. We'll give you some money to build that infrastructure and improve services to the small towns, correct?
correct. That's the general idea of less dense areas.
Yeah,
All these are throughout the state. Out of these officially ARPA dollars that the state chose to put on to broadband. But with that idea, that companies like the ones that serve Sawyer County, they're needing us to get into those dense areas where the business cases are strong.
right. Yeah, right. And is there then funding them to improve existing infrastructure? So those communities that might have internet, but it's not necessarily broadband speed, is that available as well?
It is, and there's a little bit of grants that are out there. There's ones that allow you unserved, which providers are single provider or underserved.
Yeah,
They're providers, but they're still serving on DSL on copper lines, and to really improve that, you have to put in some type of other um, components like fiber,
right.
which is ultimately the kind of the gold standard right now. So yeah, and I think the other thing that's changed is the definition of broadband. So
Oh,
4 or 5 years ago when there was the Print America dollars,
mhm.
the minimum standard then was 10.
Okay,
And now generally the standard is 20. So it's
okay. And so again, this survey that people should Google because I know if you were to try to describe the URL for it, it's kind of long and lengthy. So it's best to Google, like you said, the Wiser survey and do that. Again, that's really to help the county and other officials take a snapshot of where services are currently at, and not so much that they don't trust what the service providers are saying their services are at, but we know that in some communities there's some deficits in speed, and sometimes it hits the mark as well, and we really want to have a good idea of where these are at, right?
correct. Yeah, and I think it's different providers provide different levels of data to the state and federal government. So I think it's important to hear from the households too, because it's not just about speed; it's about affordability.
Affordability, right?
Yep, and you can be in a large geographic area and still maybe be off the end of a road or end of a line where you're not getting
Yeah,
the same speed as your neighbors are.
yeah. Yeah, I found that personally myself when I was with one carrier when I first moved up here. Boy, my speeds were less than one down and half up. And when I switched to a different carrier that actually ran over coax versus twisted pair, boy, it jumped to 60, 60 up, 10 down, and it was like night and day.
But then they're definitely different.
Yeah, and here at the station, I know we're getting probably close to 75, 80 up, and I'm sorry, down, and 10 to 15, 20 up, depending on that. My only issue is here at some of our businesses that need redundancy, it's kind of hard to have that when the redundant providers are all running on the same fiber backbone. So if that fiber gets cut, we're kind of up a creek.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a dirty secret, but that's kind of the secret of internet is there's like the highways and the county roads of broadband and the interstates. So the backbones that come in, sometimes they are shared by multiple service providers into a community.
Yeah. Is there any idea then of the interconnectivity of those so that if a line gets cut on the south end, the north end can pick it up and reroute that? Is that kind of like how electrical companies run it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is where all the service providers are trying to get, so that if a major backbone is cut, there's it loops around the other way and comes in. But I think that's just as use goes up and there's more investments. Um, lots of times they're different companies. Your local companies are using a backbone from somebody else.
Right.
So
they're shared or leased between each other. Yeah.
So I think that's happening.
Okay. Well, very cool. Well, Andy, if anyone has a question or needs to talk to you directly about some of this stuff, how do they get a hold of you?
You can give me a call, or again, you can probably Google my email address. It's certainly out there. Or,
just call the county Sawyer County office and
so call the
ask for
office.
your yeah.
Yep, and I do get some of those calls. We are, I mean, the big picture, we're trying to move this along and work with the providers because, one, the Sawyer County passed an ordinance a number of years ago to be broadband helpful, I guess is the easy way to make sure it's easy for companies to go ahead and put these expansions in. But we also know it's an economic development tool, and I think it's already happening. More people are commuting, virtually commuting from Sawyer County. And we want, like you mentioned, businesses that need broadband to be able to do business here effectively.
Yeah.
So it is a priority for us. And I think things are moving in the right direction. There's going to be some gaps. And even though we've talked a little bit about density, there are going to be some areas in the county that we're going to have to probably get providers to be more creative on how to reach those areas cost effectively.
Sure. Or maybe satellite service versus hardwired type of service, or
that's
optical.
The other phenomenon that the survey is probably going to show up some data is even in areas where there's competition, like Starlink seems to be a viable alternative. I think the old satellite is, there's a lot of downsides with that, with weather and cost of that. But we hear more and more about Starlink or whatever.
Starlink and HughesNet,
those things being more of a reasonable solution for people.
Sure. Yeah, for the people who are completely out there in the middle of nowhere, it's probably the only option they have. So
there's certainly parts of Sawyer County that are at the middle of
nowhere. Right. Yeah. Well, Andy, thank you much for stopping in and helping us understand this. Again, I want to encourage people. I also serve on the Sawyer County LCO Economic Development Corporation, and I've talked about this many times, or we have talked about this many times, and are excited about these updates. Is there a deadline for this? Or a goal line to say for this?
There's, as of right now, the survey's open. There's no deadline to complete the survey. They sent out some information last week just as to where they were at, and said it would stay open. Excuse me. Yeah. They said the goal is a minimum of 100 surveys per county. And when I looked over the weekend, we were at 97. So I think we'll get. They said they need a minimum of 100 to make each county's data effective.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely the more people we can get to complete the survey, the better.
And is this happening in other counties as well? Because a lot of our listeners are in other counties. So the Wiser if you Google the Wiser survey, their county will show up as well.
Yeah, they definitely want people from all over the state doing it, and you'll be able to pick the county you live in.
Okay. Okay. Very, very cool. Well, I encourage listeners of WOJB to, again, Google the Wiser survey, WISER. It's an online survey, and they'll just ask you some questions about the speed of your internet, the cost of it, the reliability of it, and they just want to help get a better picture of what's being used for high-speed internet. And again, it's going to be better for the state overall as we continue down this road to get broadband out to these rural areas of the state. So, Andy, again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and good luck on year number 2 here, huh?
Thanks, Mark.
All right, take care. All right, thank you. And let's see here. I'm going to go to a song. We'll stop